I forgot to do my intro. Alright, be right back. Hello and welcome to the painting stream. I'm going to be painting here alone today. It's a nice day out, so my dad's working outside, getting what he can done before the winter hits. I'm going to be continuing to paint these towers for Dungeons and Dragons. As you can see here, we have the bottom that is finished now. I'm painting the top, and it'll end up looking like that. And it'll be sort of the Watchtower. So that's where I'm headed. If you're interested, we do we 3D print these here on the machines behind me. And the designers of these prints can be found on our website, dicendungeons.com, under the Attributions tab. And yeah, I'm gonna just keep painting, getting along on these as much as I can. I have to finish up the ladders here. Just the spot where I had them clipped. Right up on top there is not painted yet. So I'm gonna get to it. I have only a little. I'm running low on my red-brown here, so hopefully I have enough to get through everything. We'll see. I'll probably have to be ordering some more of that soon. So, what I'm gonna do quick is do a couple quick touch-ups. I painted the legs on these really quickly at the end of last stream. And I want to do a little touch-up on them where they just needed a little more paint. There's a shocking amount of surface area on these legs that doesn't always show exactly until it's dry where there are some thinner spots. So I'm just getting some quick paint on those. And now I'm going to be putting the red-brown around the top edge here. And then it'll get this lighter wood color that you can see here in the other areas after the fact. So the big thing is there's a lot of these up and down triangular sections along the edge. So I'm just going to make sure those are nicely covered. I'm not worrying too much about splashing around the sides yet. That'll all be done. That'll all be cleaned up and whatnot when I do the lower section. The reason I wanted these legs painted is so I have somewhere that isn't drying paint to hold on to when I got back to it. And we use all of these D&D miniatures, or almost all of them, in our D&D live stream that we do on this channel at 2 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. We have some very exciting changes coming up soon. It'll be a little bit of a surprise, so I won't go into it too much. But if you ever want to see these get used, they can be, they're almost all used out on our stream. Which I think it's kind of fun seeing something get made and then seeing it being actually played with and used. we go. Very nice, easy, relaxing. Like I said, this is all getting painted over in a lot of areas, so I'm not worrying too much about being extremely detailed. It's more about making sure it gets properly coated at this stage. Because one thing that's going to happen once we have all of our towers done, ready to be glued, is we're going to give them a wash to put some variation, some tone, some weathering sort of look in it, because these are watchtowers outside, maybe in bad weather, things like that. So they'll have some wear and tear. Maybe they've seen a couple fights, all sorts of stuff like that. And we're going along on the end of this bottle here, and it's not as good a consistency because it's on the older side. We thinned it down a little already, and it's, you know, it's a little thicker than I normally like my paints to be, but for this sort of thing, it'll work out just fine. Finish up the bottle pretty much with these towers that we're making. Okay, so I got 2 of the sides, the brown on, 2 more to go. That cap's pretty much spent. I like to use the stuff out of the cap first because it dries more quickly. And I just don't like to waste the paint if I don't have to. But I'm gonna need to switch to the bottle here. And what I'm going for right now is just speed, getting it all covered. Really get as much surface area in, because I'm probably gonna have to wait a little bit for this to dry before I can jump into the buff section, the lighter section. You don't want to paint wet paint on wet paint, at least in this sort of situation. We're not using an oil-based paint, we're using an acrylic paint. So it's a water base, and it doesn't quite have the same ease of use in some regards. In other regards, it's way easier to use. But Okay, I got 3 of the sides done. Last one. And then I have to get all of this inside part. It's gonna take a bit to get all of that painted. But, you know, it's not so bad. And one thing is I'm noticing a little bit of a spot here that needed a touch up. So I'll just throw a little extra paint. Try and remember not to grab that part. And painting scenery is like this or a dungeon tile is a lot different in a lot of ways than painting like a character figure. In some regards, it's a lot easier. You're not dealing with nearly as much detail. But you are dealing with a lot of awkward, unusual sections. Like I need to make sure I get underneath the lip of everything, because if you miss something and that little flash of the primer shows through, it really can disrupt the whole illusion of the piece. Because, you know, these are representative of real world things, and you'll notice if it doesn't look quite right. Okay. Now to get the underside. That lip. And I'll have to be a fair bit more careful when I am going in with the lighter color later. What I'll probably end up doing is sort of outlining sections and then filling in effectively. So the last bit to do is with this color is this inside of the thing, of the platform. So what I'm gonna do, just run some paint along the edge and then work my way back. There's a shocking amount of surface area on these because there's actually where the print bed was. So there's a little bit of texturing. And just a little bit of texturing can actually add a ton of surface area because, I mean, even if it's a small bit, everywhere where it goes down and up again is effectively doubling your surface area. So this ends up absorbing a lot more paint than you would expect, and I need to do 3 more sides of that. But, you know, it's going to end up looking like that. Give it a little platform. So it's really not too hard, it's just about getting it all in. And once everything is really in place, like so, and dry, I'll be able to move on. It'll be a lot more finicky work getting all the parts in place, but it shouldn't take too long. This is a fairly easy paint job comparatively to a lot of other ones. Okay, one more. I like this red brown a lot. It looks like, when it's wet especially, it looks like melted milk chocolate. So having just been Halloween, it feels appropriate. Okay, so I think I have all the red brown in where I'm gonna want it. So I'm gonna set this to the side to dry for a minute, and while I have the red brown open, I'm just gonna touch up the ends of these ladders. So I'd put them on this clip to hold them and painted everything except the ends there. So now all I need to do really is just pop a little more paint over the little top parts of this ladder. And these ladders will go inside each of the towers. And they have like a little peg that we have glued in place to sort of hang the ladder off of if we want. That way we don't have to necessarily have the ladder glued in. It can actually be sort of a freestanding ladder. Okay, ladder number 2. Alright, now I have the shorter ladders. There's actually two different heights of ladder we have here. Another nice advantage of keeping these ladders separated and not glued in is we now have the option, if we wanted in a scene to have just a ladder somewhere else, to just grab one of these ladders now that they'll be all painted up and use it somewhere else. So it just gives a little more versatility, if not the same amount of stability. And last but not least, we have the very last ladder. And there's a lot of little spots that you can miss on a ladder, so it's always good to just sort of look around and make sure. There we go. 4 little ladders done. So, I think I am done with the red-brown, barring any touch-ups I might need. Which is good, because I'm getting very low on it. Definitely time for a resupply. So, just taking a look at how we're drying here. It's still a little bit wetter than I would like it to be in order to start painting in on the inside sections, but I think there's some parts of it that I could get started on. So, I'm going to quickly clean this brush off that I was doing the red-brown with. And I'm going to be using a smaller brush for this now that I'm doing detail work. I don't want something quite so big and clunky. I'll probably use this guy here. This is just a size I'm very used to. So I'm going to be painting in this color. It's called a buff. And it ends up looking like this. And it will look really nice once we put an umber wash over it. Very nice and woody. So the main thing I want to do is try and get the paint only where I want it to be, because I don't want to have to do too much touching up in areas where I don't have to. And to that end, I want to almost do like an outline. Go around and carefully get the borders of the area I'm painting. And walking a fine line between having enough paint on my brush and not having too much that it will splosh and make a mess. So I'm just carefully going along the bottom here of that section and applying a little bit at a time. And this will just save myself some effort down the road and a little paint here and there, because I don't have to clean up quite as much. but there will invariably be spots. I just nicked a little corner and I have a spot that I'll need to adjust later. It's not the biggest deal at all. Just sort of making a mental note of where that touch-up spot will need to be. And try not to touch wet paint. I would normally wait a fair bit longer before attempting to paint something like this, but given that I'm on a stream and I want to keep the action sort of going, it does lead to a little bit more mess, so definitely gonna need to wash my hands after this. Alright, so that gives you a little bit idea. There's the bottom painted in. Just looking at how it's drying, I'm probably gonna go around and do that bottom section on all sides of it. I find it a lot easier to paint something once the base coat is on, even if it involves a bit more touch-up than I would like. I don't know exactly why, I just find seeing the whole piece, at least like loosely, the way it should be, makes it a lot easier for my brain to process. So there's a lot of little edge work that I'm gonna have to clean up. But what I'm really looking for here is just to get things mostly in the right place, the right color. The nice part is, if I do it well, The only touching up parts I'll need to do are on the red-brown in a couple sections. So I have 2 of these lower parts painted in, roughly. 2 more to do. And then these triangle sections will take a while. I'm actually going to do this part next. Going along here, getting everything filled in fairly nicely. I do prefer to let my paint dry a little more, but I don't know how much people would enjoy me just, you know, sitting here waiting for paint to dry. I don't have another model I'm really working on yet. We've been in the process of printing a huge dungeon tile set that will eventually be getting painted. We have probably somewhere between 100 and 150 tiles all ready to be primed and then painted. But we want to hit a few more because we're going to be just doing an airbrush and really covering the whole thing in primer. So I have one more section of the lower parts left to do here. Oh, it's always good to take a second, make sure your posture is good. Take a drink. just slipped there. That's gonna be some cleanup, but you know, it's not the end of the world when that happens. Sometimes your hand slips a little. That's just how it goes. Okay, so we now have all of the lower sections here painted in. I think the next part I'm going to do is actually the bottom here, because this is actually a little bit of a pain, just getting your hand in around all of these parts. So what I'm going to do is use the smaller brush here at first and try my best to give myself a little breathing room, a little border. It's a little hard getting in around these legs though. And once I get this in, I'm gonna fill in the middle with a much larger brush. That will let me paint it all in a lot quicker. I just need to be a little careful about my approaching and leaving the area in between these legs, because it wouldn't be hard for me to splash paint all over them. Oops. I'm trying to just get into the corner there a little ahead of time. Okay. So, I'm gonna give this brush a real quick little clean. Like so. Perfect. And I'm gonna then be using a much larger brush, considerably larger brush. This guy. Because this will take a while otherwise to fill in all this. And now that I've gotten the edge around it, it's a lot less likely that I am going to create a huge mess for myself. So what I'm kind of doing, as I paint in here, is building off of that edge that I made. I'm sort of dropping the brush carefully onto that line I made, and then moving out from it, and filling in this whole area here. Just like this. So, as you can see, it's filling in fairly quickly with a larger brush. Just make sure I use that edge to its best advantage. Rotate around and get the other part. I did get one spot. That's okay. That's what the cleanup phase is for. When I will just go around the whole thing. And the touching up does not take much paint or energy. It's just see where the little spots are that you might have accidentally gotten. Dab a tiny bit of paint over them, and you're done. Actually, I find the most stressful, annoying part is getting the base coat on. Just because you have to get so much coverage. So, there, I have the underside painted, and I have an overside to do, and all these little triangles around these sides. So, we're pretty much dry on our red-brown finally. What I'm gonna do is get this brush a little cleaned off. And this brush absorbs so much. I'll get a proper cleaning later. But I'm going to be using it again, so. Take a quick drink. Coffee. And I'm going back to this brush, and it's the same process on the top. I just want to go around the edge, make sure the edge is all in. And that will give me a lot more maneuverability when it comes to filling in the middle. When I'm doing digital art, I basically do the same thing. Where you like put it around the color around the edge, and then you can use the fill tool. Just take, 80% of the work in a single button click. And one thing I noticed when I was doing that is the corners were a little difficult with the larger brush. So I'm actually, with the smaller brush here, just gonna fill in the corners a little more than is necessary, just to give myself a little bit easier time down the road here. But all I'm doing is just going along each of these planks, gently filling in each section. So, just getting that border in place. And doing another corner fill here. Just make sure I have a little breathing room. Okay, there are 3 of the sides. One more to do, and then I'll fill in. Get this corner a little more filled in. And the same with this corner. Okay. Nice and easy. Okay. Now I'm gonna take my big brush again and get it all filled in here. I also want to make sure I get the edge of this hole for the ladder. Just sort of go around and make sure that is all put in. One last little section. Like so. Alright. So, that is the central platform roughed in. Just make sure we have a nice evenish coat. So all that's left in the base coat procedure here is the little triangle sections all around the outer portion of this. So, this is actually probably the most technical part of this build, and it's not this other than gluing it together, which was a little bit of a thing because of how spindly it is. This is very straightforward, fairly easy to paint. It's just a surprising amount of surface area, honestly, is the only real hang up. So I'm gonna take my smaller brush, and it's basically the same procedure that I was doing before, but on a smaller scale. So what I sort of want to do is define the edges of what I'm painting here. And this has a lot of little ridges in it, so it's actually a little complicated to get painted right, and we'll have a little more touching up than I would normally like to do, but each section you get that painted in. As you can see, it will go across the whole way, and it'll look pretty nice, especially once we wash it all and give it some variance and weathering effects. My 3D print behind me just finished up. So probably once I get this triangle in, I'll go change those. That's part of our large stone dungeon set we're building. So just set that down for a second. And what I'm printing here are, I'll show you. Pull the raft off. And that's just to give it a consistent bed to print on. This is a doorway frame for a dungeon tile. So in this, a little 3D printed door will sit. There'll be an archway that goes across the top. And we run a little metal hole. I think usually made from like a paper clip even works. Down a hole in the door to create the hinge. So it'll be pretty nice. Some other pieces we printed recently that we have to build. Here's a large round corner. You can really see the dungeon tile. And this will take a bit of glue, but it'll all go together like this. It'll be magnetized on this base here. All those spots with holes in them will be magnetized. And all of this will glue nice and tight together and create a nice, big, interesting, round section of a dungeon. Pretty nice. So, we'll just keep printing those doorways for now. And we're going to have another big glue section coming up where we glue a whole lot of dungeon tiles together. And then we're going to take them all into a more open air environment to prime them, because there's a lot of paint that gets put up in the air with priming, and you need a ventilated area to do it safely. You know, wear a mask in a ventilated area in order to not hurt yourself. And the importance of a primer on a model, the gray part that I'm painting right now here, that's a primer. This was you know, a printed plastic. You spray a primer is basically like a spray paint in a lot of ways. You can often get it in a spray can, or in some cases like an airbrush if you have it, which is a little more economical way to do it, but only if you already have a airbrush and you're doing a large volume. But the real purpose of the primer is it gives your paint a better surface to adhere to. If you're just trying to paint like I'm doing directly onto a plastic, we use a oh god. Well, there's a variety of plastics you can print with. This is the not PLA plastic. If you were just trying to paint directly on that, you'd find the paint really wouldn't adhere very well. You might have to do multiple coats. You would have, you know, paint that flakes off, things like that. So a primer is essentially a special type of paint that adheres onto plastics and creates a surface that makes it much easier for other paint, for regular paints, to stick to. So you end up just having a much easier time by priming your whatever you're painting, whether it's a character figure, a set piece, a plane, a ship, any kind of model painting, and you know, even walls and stuff you can prime beforehand, which is usually a good idea. But I think that looks so much nicer once it has the, the buff placed inside each section. Alright, most of the way across. Just have the 3 top ones to do. The most difficult part of these little triangles is just getting up into the little corner sections. And I find sometimes it's easier to sort of place the brush a little away from the edge that you want, and then push things forward into place. Sometimes, not all the time, that can work a little better for you. Okay, and it's a little messy, but there you go. There is one side painted in, roughly. That'll just require a small touch-up and clean up to make it look nice and pretty and ready for a final wash. So all I have left are 3 more sides of those. And we'll see how far we get today. Probably get close, but maybe not all the way there. It's about 4:10. So, well, our time at least. So, yeah, we'll just keep chugging away here. Just being able to see sort of the close to the finished product, it feels a little better, you know. Just having that touch better sort of gives you a vision of the end point. Helps boost morale on any project that you're working on. Yeah, I'm gonna go along the top first, I think. Got a couple spots on the web, but since I'm going through and touching everything up, those will take half a second to do. To clean. So it's really not a big deal. The main thing I have to be aware of as I'm doing this is it has a lot of this ridging effect to it. Because they're wood planks that are making up the bulk of this structure. And it's a little awkward to go over them sometimes. But it's coming along. Okay, there's the top. Now to get the bottom triangles. And I'll probably end once I get through these triangles. I've had a busy day. I've been running around all morning, and the concentration's not quite where I would like it to be. Just having a little trouble focusing and being accurate, more than normal at least. So I think, it's sort of a know yourself. Things are quiet today, and probably just wrap up a little earlier than normal. Because I'm making some mistakes that, while they're nothing problematic at all, just I don't really need to make those mistakes. And if I just give myself a little bit, I'll be able to tackle these a little better later. Alright, it's not perfect, but I got 2 sides done, 2 left to do, and we're pretty much close to having a finished tower here, which is pretty nice. But it's about 4:20. I'm never really woke up properly today, and I've been running around all morning, like I said. I got the ladders done. I think I'm gonna call it early today. Been a quiet day, and I have some other projects to work on, so Yeah. Well, thank you for everyone who showed up. I'll be back on Friday, and we'll hopefully see some people then. Okay. Bye.